Welcome to your latest RTS news and updates. So much has happened that it was hard to pick which game to get started with, but when a dev studio breaks a year-long silence, game's theme is an ultra-famous franchise and the gameplay is very much like a past favorite of ours, that pushes it to the forefront. So this is fresh gameplay footage of Game of Thrones War for Westeros, courtesy of its developers, and their second ever update doesn't just show battle for Middle-earth like hero powers, cavalry charges and club-wielding giants, but promises more updates and no more year-long silences. What is probably the most exciting news about this upcoming fantasy-based RTS is the planned release date, which we can expect somewhere in early 2027. Yes, I was stunned too, as I didn't expect to hear we would be playing its full release just a year and a half after we first ever heard of it back in June of 2025. Being able to see heroes of House Stark and Lannister as they use their powers gives me great hope for this title. Jon Snow is given a rally for units around him, while Tywin Lannister buffs units in a targeted area. It was great to read devs' points about responsiveness, unit behavior and physical impact, but even better to actually see them already implemented in the game with cavalry charges and giant smashing. There is so much lore to pull out of Westeros and pour it into this game, so even the skirmish map, which corresponds to a story location, already looks good. I was starting to be very pessimistic about this game, but this update brought back much needed hope. The second title, which is bringing back hope for the genre and grand strategy titles in particular, is the recent demo and Kickstarter for Sanctuary Shattered Sun, which does offer a bunch of stretch goals. It's now on track for an early access release in the third quarter of 2027, and I did post a massive overview video, but if you haven't watched that one, linked up here and in the description, here is a quick summary. The single-player campaign mission of the demo is lengthy and full of spectacle, as well as units from 3 factions, 5 different tier levels including ground, air and even naval units. Do let me know in the comments have you played it and what you think of it. Super weapons are capable of tearing openings in the superstructure of the Dyson Sphere this game is designed around, while map effects include freezing the water and trapping naval units in ice. There are several tutorials to teach you the economy and base building, survival missions to practice combat and showcases of both units and those unique map shattering effects. It's a pre-alpha version that is missing some basic commands and controls, but shows incredible good performance and a great future for it. Multiplayer will become available at the end of the Kickstarter for its backers depending on your reward tier. The next Kickstarter campaign for an indie RTS, which I'm looking forward to, is going to be for Global Conflagration, whose 2 devs recently announced adding a harvesting mode to their upcoming modern real-time combat and base building game. Many players demanded the Harvesters after playing in several single-player and multiplayer playtests, and the devs delivered. And not only that, but they are also developing a new game mode. More on that in a future video, and you can learn more about Global Conflagration's gameplay in my previous videos. This is one of my favorite upcoming projects because it has been playable for years, has 3 distinctive factions, army customization, keeps getting better, and it will have a single-player campaign. So it's no wonder it's close to reaching 100,000 wishlists on Steam. Devs are smartly staying away from early access and plan to finish the game in full with the help of all of us through a successful Kickstarter, which I will also link in the description. And so, while that indie team sailed away from early access, developers of ZeroSpace boldly sailed into that harbor just a few days ago with a ton of game modes, a tournament, and the long-awaited 4th faction. First part of the campaign, featuring the adventures of Prefect Aster and his team, are now playable. You can try to fight against the endless waves of Grell in a co-op survival mode and test your skills in both skirmish and multiplayer. But probably the single most important game mode that ZeroSpace brings to the table is its Galactic War, which has started with Season 0, as it befits the game's title, but it will be a short one. I hope you will share your impressions of the 4 main factions, 6 mercenary factions, and 15 heroes with me, and also in which game mode have you spent most of your time so far. If you didn't want to get into this game's early access, do tell me why. The second huge surprise no one could have expected is an expansion for Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition. Yes, you heard that right. Despite the announcement that no more content will be coming, somehow we are getting 2 new Baltic civilizations, fresh challenge scenarios, entirely new game modes, 25 maps, and over 50 hero customizations. If 2026 isn't the year of RTS games, I don't know which other will be. And cherry on this cake is that the open beta for this expansion on Steam has already started. How excited are you 1 to 10? The next highly anticipated new RTS in development is DEFCON Zero Frontlines of Tomorrow, whose devs let me host their entire latest development update, which you can watch on their YouTube channel, and it was another fantastic and successful collaboration between me and indie game devs. They showed us several new units for each faction already, but this update was not just about the looks, but also about the sounds of the game. More specifically, the voiceover talent they recently signed. In addition, we learned more about their special Harvester unit, a long-range sniper, the beginnings of a cover system, and a bunch of other features in different stages of development or implementation. This project has already found funding, so it's on fast track to a demo version. Until then, you know what to do. Steam page, hit wishlist. Another indie team that found funding, but in a different way, is the one behind Crimson Freedom, because they managed to get into Stardock Entertainment's new expanded publishing program for indie game developers. I did an entire interview about this new publishing program with Stardock CEO a few months ago, and after a few nudges here and there, Crimson Freedom became a part of that program. This grounded sci-fi is set on Mars in the 22nd century, with 3 factions at war, with plans for an extensive single-player narrative campaign. Hopefully, we will also be able to enjoy its base building and army combat in both skirmish and multiplayer. There was a demo available, so you can check it out using the link up here and down in the description. But Tempest Rising devs updated their demo, and with a preview of a whole new campaign no less. The VETI are not just going to join the skirmish and multiplayer, but we are going to get a full storytelling campaign out of them. This will be a paid expansion however, but only for the 11 storytelling missions, while the VETI faction will be playable for free in other game modes. It comes with its own super weapon and a bunch of very interesting units, and dare I say asymmetrical gameplay mechanics. I personally did not expect this new campaign, so I was very happy to already be able to play it. You can see my video linked up here and down in the description, but I hope you will play the 2 demo missions yourselves. Next new RTS game release is the early access launch of Liquidation on the 4th of August. I showcased this fantasy and sci-fi solo indie devs project several times, and now you will all be able to enjoy its fantastic single-player campaign as well as other game modes. There are 3 unique factions, base building, units and heroes with abilities, and even items which boost stats. Company of Heroes 3 is getting a standalone wave defense game version designed for co-op gameplay or single player with an AI partner. It's actually almost out on the 29th of July, so you will be able to play it while I am on my summer vacation. Devs did several showcases with both Allied and Axis factions, preparing us for the roguelike progression system, randomized units and abilities unlocked before each wave, as well as 3 bosses with special abilities. It's great to also see lots of dynamic in-game events, which to a certain point simulate the hectic battlefields often seen in its multiplayer matches. Keep in mind that you and your co-op partner will be up against 12 escalating waves, but you can even go for the endless mode on any of the 5 maps and 8 difficulty levels depending on your free time. In a totally different age of warfare, this footage of The Last General, courtesy of its indie developer, showed us just how far we have come since the last World War. Now drones rule the massive battlefields and human soldiers are prey for machines, guided and even sometimes not guided by human hands. This game has been advancing by leaps and bounds, but considering its scope and features, it might take a while longer to be completed. The latest alpha playtest will soon be tested by over 100 players, and they will have a chance to test out jet dogfights, guided missiles, FPV drones, kamikaze and surveillance drones, in addition to new infantry weapons, improved animations and environmental destruction. There is a lot more actually, but I invite you to read that from its Steam store page as you add Last General to your wishlist. Another equally grand project is the indie space sci-fi game titled Masada, whose sole dev just posted a huge combat gameplay update, and I have this brand new footage for you. As you can see from the full 3D movement of ships, the sensor map and both its ship designs and the way they move, the entire game is very much inspired by Homeworld. But it's not designed for a lengthy campaign made up of individual missions, despite having the same system of a permanent fleet and resources that can be exhausted. It will have a gigantic map filled with NPCs, factions and stations, and be the setting for combat such as you see here. Ships going from tiny fighters to massive battleships using formations, targeting subsystems, and equipped with all sorts of different weapon systems. Full breakdown coming soon in a dedicated video. Until then, wishlist Masada on Steam. Now, I did already show you some amazing new units like a massive Seraphim transport and artillery from the upcoming indie project titled Veil of Ashes, but right now I have even more news about it. These devs managed to sign a deal with a publisher, so now Slytherin is going to be helping them out to finish and publish this dark steampunk themed tactical game. There is no base building, yes, but that hasn't stopped them from getting over 100,000 wishlists on Steam. Now we get a look at the newest huge transporter unit, which is an airship but with a mix of realistic and functional elements. Devs plan to add both multiplayer and skirmish modes of up to 8 players, and it will have infantry too, so keep an eye on this one. And when it comes to other games published by Slytherin, I recently had an opportunity to interview a lead developer of Battleplan about their upcoming World War II themed game, which is really hard to classify into a specific genre or subgenre because of its very unique control system. Or more like two systems because of its alternative new zone order system. Newest gameplay now includes scenarios from the German perspective, and in that interview video you can learn more about this game. Newest gameplay now includes scenarios from the German perspective, and in that interview video you can learn more about this game. Its release date has been moved to the third quarter of 2026 after more testing proved devs can improve the tools used to draft battle plans and control units. They also want to squash more bugs and give us better army management options, especially when it comes to splitting and merging divisions, regiments and battalions. Since I am already deep on the topic of games published by Slytherin, I might as well tell you about their most recent full release, which is titled Nightmare Frontier. This is a tactical turn-based game, so I will go more in depth about it on my second channel, Paraphilosoph 2. But it's enough to say that after a year in early access, its gameplay, based on the first ever tactical extraction looter that isn't an FPS or a third-person shooter, has shocked more than a few gamers, me included. The setting is quite interesting as well, due to alternative nightmarish 1900s filled with monsters and other supernatural elements. The other new interesting project published by Slytherin is titled Bolt Action. It's much more grounded in reality than the previous game, and yes, it is another World War II themed game. Its tabletop rule set and turn-based gameplay means it will also get a spot on my second channel, but what you might want to know about it is that it will feature an army painter for customizing squads, weapons and vehicles, which is usually something we get only with Warhammer games. It will feature a dynamic single-player campaign, skirmish battles, as well as multiplayer with ranked online battles. There is one solo indie dev who I haven't yet managed to help find a publisher, but it wasn't for lack of trying. But I am at least glad to be able to show off the newest footage of his space RTS, which is titled Soil. I know, a strange name for a space game, but you can actually already try his game, as a playable version is downloadable from his website, which I will leave a link to in the description. Considering it now has a Steam page as well, I would suggest you go to it and wishlist the game, as a high number of wishlists makes finding a publisher much easier, as we saw in the case of Veil of Ashes and many other games. Most important updates are the doubled performance, new visuals and UI elements, as well as fixes for its multiplayer. Yes, this one is very much inspired by Homeworld's gameplay. Another indie game whose updated demo I have the pleasure of showing is Dawn of Defense. Its devs managed to give us a more in-depth and proper RTS economy, so they switched their only resource, which was gold, for iron, stone, timber and food. That meant adding new buildings for us to construct, like mines, quarries, lumber mills and farms, which now fuel all our armies, towers and the war effort. The gameplay is still about surviving waves of enemies by building defenses, recruiting warriors and striking back to reclaim lost territory, separated by bridges above the paths taken by waves of enemies who attack our HQ of sorts. Devs also added more game mechanics to units and adjusted towers targeting to compensate for the new unit values and armor. The new demo is already live on Steam, so when you go over to wishlist the game, give it a try and let me know what you think of it. The next indie game, which was developed by a solo dev and who made a bunch of updates for it, is Endeavor Rite of Passage. I showed its 3 factions, powers and super weapons to you a few times already, but wanted to let you know what was new about it. It now has a second, 16 mission long campaign featuring the Presidium faction. Dev also updated his UI, visuals and effects, fixed up his save and loading system, and even worked on preparing the multiplayer. This is as close as a solo indie dev can get to making a sci-fi version of CNC Generals, so I hope you will check out his game. Another update I need to give you is also about a sci-fi game, but this one is very different in both how it looks and how it's played. From Glory to Goo now has an extended single-player campaign, and soon it will also be getting a new faction. There have already been countless updates, and with the future ones in August, more will be added and changed. This is an RTS based on survival gameplay on an alien world rich in multiple biomes, but also human ships and their captains who keep trying to conquer it. Your colony in this game is never safe, and if you like this art style and type of gameplay, this is a great time to start playing. And while on the subject of strange alien worlds, colony ships and fights against aliens, you know what's coming next, the naval ship update for Calyx. To be more precise, it's called the Leviathan update, and it doesn't just bring a whole new ocean biome and the naval vessels, but also 6 maps to skirmish, 2 to challenges, as well as new waterborne enemies to fight and less controls to fight because of the quality of life improvements. The shipyard building is your gateway to this new ocean with the Comet gunship, Arc naval transport and the Broadside battleship. This RTS subgenre of base defense games just keeps on giving with more fantastic and unique looking games. Moving from sci-fi aliens to fantasy aliens, the Green Horde of the Scouring, as well as the human faction, received their own warships in what is yet another naval update for this RTS news video. The solo dev behind this indie gem did another round of unit and ability rebalancing, but also added controller support to his game, which means, you know it, a radial quick actions menu. But that is not all, as 8 new PvE challenge missions with unique achievements were also in one of these updates, some of which passed on to the game's demo as well. So even if you haven't bought this fantastic game already, you can still benefit from some of these updates as you try its demo. Next stop, a full campaign, and I personally can't wait. And on the topic of campaigns, if you have played the latest missions added to the single-player campaign of Moduwar, you will hear my voice from an NPC or two, as the devs of this game invited me to voice act a bit for them.
Modu captured, heading back.
I love this game for its unique creatures and their abilities to attach, combine or detach organs at will, creating separate entities of one whole. Now the game has 3 new such organs to grow and use, 3 sub-factions and brand new campaign missions. Make sure to check it out. One of the strangest upcoming RTS games on my radar is Dinolords, and we got a brand new trailer from its developers, as well as a monthly dev update. This new footage showcased much bigger dinos and battles, as well as the settlement building system and its animations. We also got to see more kinds of dinos and how they can be equipped. Devs wrote about the Fog of War at length and how they have been making each level more alive by improving their environment. It's a strange mix of stronghold and hack and slash action oriented gameplay, so I really want to see what comes of Dinolords during its early access period, for which we still don't have a release date. One very interesting update I had to make sure to tell you about is for Planetary Annihilation's Titans. I know it's been quite a while and it is a very strange story of development, because the game now has been actually taken over by its community. These folks added co-op for up to 64 players for the Galactic War, which is a sort of roguelite campaign, but the default option is 12 players. So now we can wage war across entire solar systems with massive armies at our command, but also with a lot of friends, all the while fighting off massive super weapons which can even demolish planets. An even older community project is OpenRA, and its devs keep working on it, producing patches and updates, the latest of which gave us new random map generators for Red Alert, Tiberian Dawn and Dune 2000. That last one has received a complete community-led balance overhaul, while Tiberian Dawn HD mod has become feature complete, and all AI bots got better at playing these games. If you like to make maps, the editor now has new features and better UI. There is more which you can check out by reading those patch notes on the project's website. Let me know, do you play OpenRA games and which is your favorite mod for them? Even older is Warzone 2100, and yet that one too was recently updated, and you should know it's possible to get and play it on Windows 10 via the Microsoft Store, linked in the description. Note that there is a reason why I am not talking about the game's Steam version, as that one is not supported by its actual main developers and contributors. This update was titled The Legacy and Lobby, as it fixed and changed the online play system, added a new campaign balance mod, and brought a host of other fixes and upgrades for this aging grandfather of RTS games. Its unit customization system remains an inspiration to many new RTS game devs and players. One such group are devs behind Steel Command, another new project I found recently. Its devs sent over this footage and explained about making their own creation cube, which acts as a mini blender in a map editor. They want this to be used by their players to create whatever kind of maps they want to. This is a sort of grounded, grit and steel RTS with heavy metal units equipped with railguns. It will feature 3 asymmetrical factions, base building, resource harvesting and power. It will be focused on macro strategy over micro gameplay, so I hope you will wishlist it on Steam. Zeta Leporis has been released on Steam a while back, but its solo indie dev is persistent with updates and changes across the board, which includes working on multiplayer. The game looks better for it, with projectile glow, ship engine jets and even shipyard construction arms, because this is a space sci-fi game about starship combat after all. There is new music, bugs were fixed, and a new unit added which acts as a resource converter at Tech 3, turning 2 resource types into the 3rd resource type. This game is quite cheap even when not on sale, and it does even offer a demo, so try it out. Another team of indie devs who sent me an interesting video about their game's progress are the ones behind Warpact. I mentioned this browser-based RTS in my previous video, but now I have news about its first campaign, which is of the tutorial type and has mission briefing videos. They are asking you for feedback on it, and you can play with the new fighter jets and defensive AA units across dozens of new maps. You can find the game on its Google Play Store page, which I will link in the description. This time I saved an update on D.O.R.F for last, because the previous 2 times it was at the forefront, and also because it wasn't a very interesting month for its development, beside new dev positions filled and new hardware which helps them render much faster while working on game's performance and stability. Other features they spent time on was the story and the direction for its campaign, as well as the demo plans for the end of this year. This is where the newly recruited writer and new animator will help out a lot. They talked about units which can now move along more specific routes when entering and exiting buildings, and door animations, meaning that vehicles can now actually open and close their hatches. They even want to make units who are inside APC type vehicles to be visible even if they are just getting a ride or operating the vehicle's weapons. And that is all for this time. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll take a look at some other ones shown here as cards or links in the description. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all happy gaming.